June, 2008. Haichung Securities Exchange Center. The air was thick with the smell of cheap cigarettes, sweat, and sheer despair. On the massive electronic display overhead, sickly green numbers cascaded down like a waterfall. Every flicker was accompanied by waves of agonizing wails echoing through the hall. It's all over. This isn't a stock market. It's a damn slaughterhouse. A middle-aged man in a floral shirt slumped onto the floor. Staring blankly at the screen, he clutched tightly onto a trading slip that was already completely soaked in sweat, and all around him, countless investors looked as pale as ghosts. Some were sobbing over the phone, while others furiously smashed their water bottles. This was 2008, the most brutal bear market in the history of A shares. The index had plummeted all the way from 6,124 points. The wealth of countless families evaporated overnight. Right in the middle of this chaotic, desperate bloodbath, a teenager in a faded school uniform t-shirt stood quietly in the corner of the hall. His name was Lin Fan. 5 minutes ago, he was still working overtime at his company's headquarters in 2024. While rebuilding the underlying architecture for a large AI model, he had pulled 3 all-nighters in a row. That sudden, violent spasm in his heart had instantly knocked him unconscious. When he opened his eyes again, he was here. Lin Fan looked down, staring at his hands. They were young, slender, yet full of life. He then glanced at his reflection in the glass doors of the hall, a slightly naive 18-year-old boy with bangs covering his eyes. "I'm back," Lin Fan muttered to himself, his voice hoarse, trembling with a trace of sheer disbelief. He instinctively reached into his pocket, his fingertips brushing against something cold and perfectly smooth. That definitely wasn't something that belonged in 2008. It wasn't a brick like Nokia, nor was it a Motorola flip phone. It was a prototype device from 2024. It had a full titanium body, without a single logo, and a screen as pitch black as ink. This was the very test device he always carried around in 2024. It was loaded with the locally deployed, offline version of the large AI model that he had personally fine-tuned. Lin Fan's heart started pounding wildly. He was reborn, and he brought a cheat code from the future. Dodging the eyes of the crowd, he hid behind a massive concrete pillar and pressed the power button with a trembling thumb. There was no drawn-out boot animation. The screen lit up instantly, its crisp OLED glow feeling exceptionally bright in the dim hall. The UI was incredibly minimalist. Just a single blue bubble icon floating right in the center. Lin Fan took a deep breath and tapped the icon. A line of text popped up on the screen. System diagnostics complete. Current network, none. 2G networks are currently not supported. Local database, intact. Offline computing module, normal. Hello, Lin Fan. AI is at your service. It's really still here. Lin Fan felt the blood boiling in his veins. This phone stored all the internet data up to 2024. The lottery results, the technical documents, even the final score of every single World Cup match. In an era where smartphones hadn't even been born, and the 3G network was just beginning commercial trials. In the year 2008, when computing power was unbelievably expensive, this phone was practically a nuclear weapon. Lin Fan typed furiously into the search bar. Searching, June 12, 2008. A share market trends. Even though it was an offline version, the local database was shockingly massive, reacting in a matter of milliseconds. A complex candlestick chart instantly popped up on the screen. Search results, June 12, 2008. The Shanghai Composite Index plummeted. Thousands of stocks hit their daily limit down. But, at 2:45 p.m., due to leaked insider news about a corporate restructuring, institutional funds will aggressively pump the price. It will shoot straight from the bottom limit to the absolute top. A massive single-day swing of 20%. Lin Fan stared intensely at that line on the screen. A 20% profit in a single day. And it's happening today. In exactly 40 minutes, he snapped his head up, looking at the large electronic screen in the middle of the hall. The current time is 2:05 p.m. Haehong Holdings. Lin Fan frantically searched for the stock's name in the scrolling sea of green numbers. It's currently down 9.8%, completely locked at the daily limit down. Sell orders were piled up like a mountain. Absolutely no one dared to catch this falling knife. Lin Fan patted his pocket. Inside was just a single, crumpled, 50 yuan bill and his ID card. This was his entire net worth after finishing the college entrance exams. He originally planned to use it for an all-nighter at the internet cafe. 50 yuan. Even if it doubled, that's only 100 yuan. It wasn't nearly enough for starting capital. I have to get my hands on some capital. Lin Fan's eyes swept across the trading hall like a hawk. He finally locked onto a middle-aged man in a floral shirt, who was slumped on the floor in despair. He remembered this guy. He was all over the news in his past life. There was a major player in Haicheng known as Big Boss Zhao, who lost his house and car in the 2008 stock market crash. He ended up drinking pesticide right outside the stock exchange. If I don't step in, this man is going bankrupt today. Lin Fan adjusted his collar, completely burying his teenage awkwardness. He put on the cold, imposing demeanor he had in his past life as a top-tier systems architect. He quickly walked over to the man in the floral shirt. "Wanna make your money back?" His cold voice cut through the noisy crying and wailing in the hall, sounding completely out of place. The man in the floral shirt, Zhao Gang, slowly raised his head with a dead-eyed stare, looking at the wet behind-the-ears kid in front of him. A flash of absolute rage crossed his eyes. "Piss off. I'm having a hell of a day here." Heihong Holdings. Lin Fan didn't back down. Looking down at him from above, he casually dropped the fact. "Your entire portfolio is in this stock. You went all in, got trapped, and lost 800,000 yuan. Am I right?" Zhao Gang froze. Only God and he knew what was in his portfolio. How the hell did this kid know? Truth is, Lin Fan had no idea. But he had his AI scan the crumpled brokerage statement clenched in Zhao Gang's hand. Even though only a tiny corner was showing, the AI's image restoration tech instantly filled in the blanks. How do you know?" Zhao Gang scrambled up from the floor, staring at Lin Fan in absolute shock. "That doesn't matter." Lin Fan pointed at the massive electronic screen. "There are 40 minutes left until the market closes. This stock is currently locked at its daily limit down. If you don't want your stocks to hit absolute rock bottom again tomorrow, listening to me is your only way out." "Listen to you? You're just a kid. What the hell do you know about stocks?" Even though Zhao Gang was surprised, he still wasn't buying it. Lin Fan let out a cold chuckle. It was the absolute confidence of a man in charge. "Whether I know or not doesn't matter. What matters is this. I have inside information." Those two words were a fatal lure for any stock trader. Lin Fan lowered his voice, leaning in close to Zhao Gang's ear. His tone was terrifyingly certain. "I have solid intel. 245. Big money is going to swoop in and break the limit downline. How much liquid cash do you have left right now?" Zhao Gang was completely paralyzed by Lin Fan's aura. The kid's eyes were way too deep. He didn't seem like a high schooler at all. He felt more like a ruthless titan of Wall Street. I only have 50 grand left, and that's my daughter's tuition money. I can't touch it," Zhao Gang stammered, trembling all over. 50 grand, that's enough. Lin Fan glanced at the time on his phone. 2:10 p.m. Take that 50 grand, and put it all on Heihong Holdings at the rock bottom price. Right now. Do it, Lin Fan commanded. "Are you insane? There are still tens of thousands of sell orders pinned to the floor. Buying in now is pure suicide." Zhao Gang shrieked. "Those are spoof orders." Lin Fan lied without batting an eye. In reality, this was an AI analysis based on historical data, delivering its calculated conclusion. The moment the clock strikes 2:45, those tens of thousands of sell orders will vanish instantly. If you don't buy in right now, you won't even get a spot in line later. Seeing Zhao Gang still hesitating, Lin Fan went for the kill. "You've already bled 500 grand out of your 800 grand capital. What's another 50 grand down the drain? But, if I'm right, you'll make back 20% before the closing bell today. We sell tomorrow at the opening spike, and you get half your original money back. So, are you in or not?" Zhao Gang stared at the brutally plunging numbers on the big screen. Huge drops of cold sweat rolled down his forehead. It was the final, desperate struggle of a cornered gambler. "Screw it, let's do this." Zhao Gang gritted his teeth and bolted straight for the trading counter. Lin Fan stood right where he was, his hands buried in his pockets. His fingers gently traced the phone inside. On the screen, the AI flashed a new alert. "User psychological analysis. Target's trust level has reached 85%. Countdown initiated. 34 minutes until the breakout point." A faint smirk tugged at the corner of Lin Fan's mouth. His first pot of gold in this new life wouldn't be cash, it would be a devoted believer. Time ticked by second. Everyone in the trading hall was glaring. cursing at the endlessly crashing index. Only Lin Fan and Zhao Gang had their eyes dead set on Haehong Holdings. 2:40 p.m. It was still brutally locked at the absolute bottom. Zhao Gang's face had gone completely pale, his hands shaking like a leaf. "Kid, are you screwing with me? It's not moving at all. Shut up, just watch." Lin Fan didn't even glance at him. His gaze was burning with intensity. 14:44, on the giant screen, the sell orders for Haehong Holdings suddenly took a bizarre, eerie pause. 14:45 and 0 seconds. Lin Fan counted silently in his head. Ignite. The very next second, a miracle happened. The tens of thousands of sell orders that were crushing the limit down price like a massive mountain were instantly wiped out, as if by a massive, invisible hand. Red buy orders erupted like a roaring volcano. 9.8, plus 3. That green line on the graph shot straight up in a matter of seconds. Like a soaring dragon, it instantly smashed right through every moving average. It's moving. Haehong Holdings is coming back from the dead. What kind of insane rally is this? The entire trading floor instantly boiled over in a frenzy. Everyone's eyes were glued to this monster stock. Zhao Gang's jaw completely dropped. His eyes were practically popping out of his skull. He stared at his account, watching the negative numbers jump wildly. Those 50,000 yuan worth of shares he just bought were already showing a massive profit. Plus 10, plus 5, plus 84.32, plus 10. In just 3 short minutes, it skyrocketed from limit down, straight to limit up. From the absolute bottom to the very top, it's locked. The limit up is locked tight. Someone screamed. The hall erupted into total chaos. Countless people were fiercely slapping their thighs in deep regret, kicking themselves for not buying the dip. Meanwhile, amidst the roaring crowd, Zhao Gang went completely limp, slumping heavily against the counter. He was gasping for air, his face showing the sheer exhaustion of pure ecstasy. He whipped his head around, desperately searching for that mysterious teenager. Lin Fan was still standing behind the pillar, looking completely unbothered. As if the earth-shattering market reversal that just happened was as casual as eating and drinking to him. Zhao Gang rushed over, practically ready to fall to his knees. "Prodigy, wait, no. Master, sir, how should I address you?" Lin Fan looked at him and replied coolly, "Just call me Lin Fan." "Boss Zhao, how much did you make?" "The 50,000 I just threw in made 10,000, plus the shares I already held. I made over 100,000 yuan back today alone." Zhao Gang babbled, completely overcome with wild excitement. "Master, what about tomorrow? Should I still sell tomorrow?" "Tomorrow at the open, when it spikes 5%. Clear out your entire position. Do not hold a single share." Lin Fan said calmly. Okay, absolutely. I will listen to whatever you say." Zhao Gang now practically worshipped Lin Fan's words like they were from a god. Suddenly realizing something, he frantically dug into his bag and pulled out a thick stack of cash. It was several thousand yuan he had just withdrawn and hadn't even had the chance to deposit yet. "Master, please take this as a little token of my appreciation for the tip. Please don't think it's too little." Lin Fan didn't bother being falsely polite. He reached right out and accepted the 2,000 yuan. This was his startup capital for 2008. Lin Fan stuffed the cash into his pocket. "Leave me your number. In a few days, I might need your account to run a few things for me." "No problem. Just say the word, master, and my life is yours." Zhao Gang bowed eagerly as he handed over his business card. Lin Fan took it, and took a look. Defa Building Materials Trading Company. Zhao Gang, so he's in the building materials business. A thought struck Lin Fan. Shen Yuchu's family factory also went under because of a broken supply chain in building materials. This move was the right one. Lin Fan turned around and walked out of the hall. Sunlight broke through the clouds, shining on his youthful face. With this 2,000 bucks, it's time to get down to real business. He needed to use this money before Shen Yuchu's father got into trouble, to snowball his principal into a massive amount. And in 2008, a time where gold was practically lying on the streets, there was one other place besides the stock market that could let a tech maniac like him get filthy rich overnight. Lin Fan pulled out his phone and said to his AI, "Run a search for me. Around this time in 2008, are there any major tech vulnerabilities or bounties?" Searching. Tonight at 8 p.m., a well-known antivirus company, Kingsoft, will suffer a massive server attack. At the same time, a mutated variant of the panda-burning incense virus is wreaking havoc on the dark web. A hacker forum is offering a 50,000 yuan bounty for a patch. Lin Fan stopped in his tracks. A playful smirk crept onto his lips. 50 grand. That's a pretty small payout, but it'll do for a welcome gift. He headed toward a nearby internet cafe. The summer of 2008 was always filled with a restless, stifling heatwave. By the time Lin Fan stepped out of the trading hall, his shirt was already soaked with sweat. He clutched those 2,000 bucks in his hand, like it was the key to a whole new world. But he knew that this little bit of money, in the face of the massive business empire that was about to rise, wasn't even a speck of dust. He needed more. He flagged down a red taxi and headed straight for Haicheng's infamous Street of Sin, Shui Fu Road. That was where you'd find the biggest internet cafe in all of Haicheng, the Black Hawk Cyber Cafe. He pushed open the heavy glass doors of the cafe, and a wave of braised beef noodles, cheap cigarettes, sweat, and foot odor slammed right into his face. That was the unique, industrial scent of 2008. In the dimly lit room, hundreds of bulky CRT monitors flickered with a faint, ghostly glow. The endless clattering of keyboards and angry shouts blended together into a frantic symphony. "Boss, set me up with a computer. I'm staying the whole night." Lin Fan walked up to the front desk and slapped down a 20 yuan bill. The girl at the counter was rocking the trendiest burgundy afro of the year. She didn't even bat an eye, loudly chewing her gum while glued to the Audition online game on her screen, her fingers aggressively smashing the spacebar. "We're totally full. You want a temporary card or not?" Lin Fan grabbed the temporary card. He casually navigated through the smoke-filled aisles. Most of the monitors were showing World of Warcraft's continent of Azeroth, or Counter-Strike's Dust 2 map. Occasionally, you could spot a few guys watching the latest Naruto episodes. Lin Fan found an open PC tucked away in the deepest corner. The keyboard was caked in a thick layer of cigarette ash, and the left mouse button was slightly broken, but he didn't care. He pulled a wet wipe from his pocket, gave it a quick wipe down, and took a seat. "Yo, Fan." A greasy, massive head suddenly leaned over from the next seat. With half a sausage dangling from his mouth, Lin Fan turned his head and saw a chubby face so painfully familiar it made him want to cry. It was Fatty Joe, his absolute best friend from high school. In his past life, when he had hit rock bottom, it was this chubby guy who sold his own car just to lend him cash to stay afloat. Right now, Fatty Joe was only 18 years old, his face still full of youthful collagen and baby fat. He had his headphones on, deep into playing Fantasy Westward Journey. Running trade quests. "What are you doing here? Didn't you say you were gonna stay home, catch up on sleep, and skip the exam score estimates?" Fatty Joe pulled his headphones down around his neck, looking totally confused. "Just here to take care of some actual business." Lin Fan just smiled, not bothering to explain further. Memories from his past life came flooding back, but he quickly pushed them down. Right now, every single second was worth its weight in gold. He booted up the PC, smoothly launched Internet Explorer, and typed in a dark web forum URL known only to the hardcore hacker community. The year 2008 was one of the absolute worst years for internet virus outbreaks. The devastating aftermath of the panda burns incense worm had barely faded, and countless new Trojan variants were popping up every day. And tonight, a massive cyber attack targeting the backend servers of major antiviruses like Kingsoft and Rising was quietly brewing in the shadows. Lin Fan reached into his pocket and pulled out his smartphone, the one he brought from the year 2024. He used a USB cable to hook it up to the rundown net cafe computer. "AI, activate transparent transmission mode, and take over the root access of this computer," Lin Fan commanded in his mind. The phone screen lit up with a faint glow, and a line of text popped up on an interface that only he could see. "Root access acquired, scanning the local network environment. Warning, a high-risk worm virus has been detected on this local network. It is the dormant code for Storm 1. Estimated time until full-scale outbreak is 15 minutes. Lin Fan narrowed his eyes. Storm 1. He definitely remembered this virus. In his past life, back in June 2008, this exact malware completely paralyzed a third of the internet cafes across the entire country. It specifically exploited vulnerabilities in the net cafe management software. Not only did it lock up the machines, but it aggressively spammed adult pop-up ads, costing net cafe owners an absolute fortune. I was only planning to write an antivirus patch for some quick bounty money, but it looks like I just stumbled right into the hornet's nest. A cold, confident smirk crept onto Lin Fan's face, but right at that moment, a massive wave of panic suddenly swept through the entire net cafe. Holy shit. My dragon-slaying blade just dropped. Come on, don't lag on me now. Hey admin, my computer just froze up. Everything is blue screening. Lin Fan quickly looked up. In the main hall, hundreds of monitors that were working perfectly fine started crashing into blue screens, one after another like a row of dominoes. Then, skull icons popped up on the screens, flashing a mocking message in blood-red text. Wanna unlock your computer? Contact QQ. XXXX. 50 yuan per machine. The internet cafe instantly erupted in curses. People were furiously smashing their mice. Others were sweating bullets in absolute panic. The cafe owner, Baldy Lee, rushed out from the back room. Drenched in sweat, he roared, "Don't panic. I'm rebooting the server." But he clearly underestimated the sheer power of this virus. Rebooting did absolutely nothing. Even the cafe's main billing server was locked down tight. Baldy Lee's face turned completely green with panic. A full house of 300 people. With the system totally paralyzed, he'd lose thousands just on refunds alone, let alone the ruined business. Baldy Lee screamed in absolute despair, "Who can fix this? Whoever fixes this gets a whole year of free internet." He frantically dialed the IT maintenance guys, but they told him it would take at least 2 hours to get there. Meanwhile, in a dark corner, Lin Fan watched the chaos with total calm. His screen had turned blue too, but his AI had already taken over the core permissions. That blue screen was just a fake out. AI, analyze the virus source code, and generate a targeted kill script. Give me the fastest, most aggressive one you've got. Exploit the system's root vulnerabilities and tear it apart from the inside. Command confirmed. Parsing data. Parsing complete. Time elapsed. 0.03 seconds. Generating C++ code. On Lin Fan's phone screen, dense lines of code cascaded down like a digital waterfall. It was an algorithmic logic at least a full decade ahead of its time. Without a single line of wasted code, it was so brilliantly streamlined, it looked like a literal masterpiece. In that exact moment, his entire aura shifted. He was no longer just some high school slacker cutting class to game. He was the man who had once stood at the NASDAQ, ringing the opening bell as a top-tier chief technology officer. Smack, he slammed the enter key. The blue screen on his monitor instantly vanished, replaced by a pitch-black command prompt window. Lin Fan's fingers began to literally fly across the keyboard. He wasn't just mashing keys, there was a terrifying, almost hypnotic rhythm to his typing. The shabby computer's mechanical keyboard let out a crisp, rapid-fire clatter, moving so incredibly fast that Fatty Joe, sitting right next to him, was absolutely dumbfounded. "Fan, bro, you know how to code?" The half-eaten sausage in Fatty Joe's mouth dropped straight onto his pants. Lin Fan completely ignored him, his eyes dead locked on the screen. Void, kill storm, inject 0x4000. Lines of complex commands were flawlessly executed. Lin Fan was literally taking the code generated by the AI and porting it straight into this era. 5 minutes later, Lin Fan punched in the final semicolon. Then, he slammed the enter key one last time. Go, it's hunting time. On the screen, a green progress bar instantly shot to 100%. Local scan and clean, complete. Broadcasting the patch across the local network. The computer next to him, which was just flashing a crazy blue screen, suddenly went black for a second, then automatically restarted, booting right into Windows. The classic Windows XP blue sky and white clouds desktop appeared. Then, the third machine. Then the fourth. It was as if an invisible breeze had just swept through the entire internet cafe. Those creepy skull icons vanished one by one, replaced by the familiar chime of the startup music. Holy crap, it's fixed. My computer is back to normal. Mine too. My gear is still here. You're awesome, boss. That was insanely fast. Baldy Lee, who was just about ready to bash his head against the front desk, completely froze. He stared at the phone he hadn't even finished dialing, then looked back at the fully restored billing system. His face was a picture of pure confusion. I didn't even fix it yet. Hey, admin, who the heck fixed this? Baldy Lee grabbed the girl with the crazy curly hair and asked. She was just as dumbfounded, pointing a shaky finger toward the corner of the room. I think the signal came from over there. Baldy Lee followed her gaze, only to see the back of a teenager wearing a plain white t-shirt. He was calmly closing out of the command prompt window and opening up the official forum for Kingsoft Antivirus. Now, Baldy Lee knew a thing or two. His tech skills weren't exactly top tier, but after running an internet cafe for 10 years, he knew exactly what it meant to reverse engineer a fix for the entire local network from a single client machine. A master. This kid is an absolute hidden genius. He quickly rushed up behind Lin Fan. At that moment, Lin Fan was busy taking the code he just wrote, packaging it up, and uploading it to a hacker bounty board called Safe Hacker. The title of his post was simple and straight to the point. Storm number 1 dedicated removal tool and source code logic analysis. Bonus, server firewall vulnerability patch included. Bounty price, 50,000 yuan. Baldy Lee didn't dare interrupt. He just stood behind him, holding his breath as he watched. Big Fatty Joe was completely petrified. He was staring at Lin Fan like he was looking at an alien. Bro, when the heck did you secretly graduate from the Matrix? Lin Fan didn't say a word. He was just waiting. Over on the forum, the moderators were incredibly fast to react. A system notification popped up. Your post has been flagged by moderator KN, currently verifying the validity of the code. Meanwhile, in Beijing, at the Kingsoft Software Antivirus Center. Inside the brightly lit office, dozens of engineers were pulling their hair out over this sudden wave of a massive virus outbreak. Boss, someone just posted a removal tool on the forum. A young intern suddenly shouted. Stop wasting time on the forums right now. It's probably just clickbait, or a mutated strain of the virus. The technical director didn't even look up, his fingers flying across his keyboard. No, seriously, boss, you really need to see this code. It's absolutely beautiful. The intern's voice was actually shaking. The technical director frowned, sliding his chair over to take a look. But after just one glance, his pupils violently shrank. The structure of the code on the screen was nothing short of a masterpiece. It exploits an underlying Windows mechanism that's never been disclosed before. It cuts the virus's transmission chain with the precision of a scalpel, and it barely takes up any memory. The execution speed is terrifyingly high. The director gasped in disbelief. Who wrote this? Did one of the country's top red hackers step in? Quick, download and compile it, push it to the entire network. 3 minutes later, a private message window popped up on Lin Fan's computer screen. Sender, Kingsoft Security Center. Verified official account. Friend, the code is absolutely flawless. Thank you for stepping in and buying us some time. The 50,000 bounty has been transferred to your designated account. Also, would you be interested in coming to Beijing for a chat? You can name your own salary. He just replied with a few words. Still in school, no time. Then, he closed the chat box. His phone vibrated. Bank deposit notification. Your account, at 22:15, received a transfer of 50,000 yuan. 50 grand, secured, plus the 2,000 from the stock market. I've got my startup capital. Lin Fan stood up and unplugged his phone's data cable. Hey, boss. Lin Fan turned around, looking at the completely dumbfounded Bald Lee standing behind him. This computer's internet fee. Can you waive it? Bald Lee suddenly snapped out of his daze. A heavily flattering, almost sycophantic smile spread across his face. Whenever you come to play from now on, it's completely free. Drinks are on the house too. Master, what about that virus just now? Bald Lee rubbed his hands together in excitement. That was a system vulnerability. I went ahead and patched your servers while I was at it. Low-level viruses like that won't be able to get in anymore, Lin Fan said casually. His tone carried a calm confidence completely unsuited for his age. Oh, thank you so much. If that thing had wrecked my systems all night, I would have lost tens of thousands. Say, master, please, take this 1,000 yuan internet cafe membership card. Lin Fan didn't take the card. Instead, he just waved his hand dismissively. Keep the card, just save a good computer for my buddy Joe DePong whenever he comes to play. That's enough. Standing next to him, Joe DePong was so moved he was almost in tears. He practically lunged forward and hugged Lin Fan's thigh. Fan, from now on, you're my actual blood brother. I'm gonna be your loyal sidekick forever. Lin Fan pushed the chubby guy away in disgust. He checked the time. It was 10:30 at night. The waves he had just stirred up in this small internet cafe would trigger a massive earthquake in the tech world tomorrow. The mysterious hacker behind that ID would become the prime target for every major security company. But Lin Fan didn't care about the fame. He walked out of the internet cafe, letting the cool night breeze blow away the smell of smoke on his clothes. AI, pull up Shen Yuchu's current coordinates, Lin Fan asked in his mind, based on historical data projections and cellular tower triangulation. Target located, she is currently at the emergency department of Haicheng City Central Hospital. Related event, her father, Shen Guojiang, admitted to the hospital with a sudden heart attack. Accompanied by a dead dispute, Lin Fan's pupils contracted sharply. In his past life, it was exactly on this night, Shen Yuchu's father was hospitalized with a heart attack, and those loan sharks chased them all the way to the hospital. They made a huge scene right at the entrance. To raise money for her father's surgery, Shen Yuchu was forced to sign a humiliating contract. She even had to go beg that rich kid who later ruined her entire life. That was the turning point of Shen Yuchu's life, and also Lin Fan's biggest nightmare in his past life. But this time, I won't let it happen. Lin Fan flagged down a cab. The sound of the car door slamming shut was like a battle horn. Driver, head to the city center hospital. Step on it, I'll pay you extra. The tires rolled over the puddles on the road, splashing up a spray of muddy water. Lin Fan tightly gripped the phone in his pocket. The 50,000 yuan in there wasn't just money. It was his weapon. It was the very first strike he would swing at fate. The night rain in High City poured down without warning. June weather was as unpredictable as a baby's mood. By the time the cab pulled up to the city center hospital entrance, it was pouring buckets. The wipers were swiping frantically, but they just couldn't clear away the blurring curtain of water. The Red Cross sign flickered in the rainy night, like a bloodshot eye. Oozing the cold indifference of life and death, Lin Fan paid the fare, and without an umbrella, bolted straight into the rain. The freezing rain slapped against his face, letting that restless heart of his, agitated by his rebirth, cool down just a bit, making it even sharper. The lobby was packed to the brim. The smell of disinfectant was pungent, mixed with a damp, musty stench. Lin Fan didn't need to ask for directions. The memories of his past life were carved into his brain like a scalpel. Observation area, bed 302. He slowed his pace, pushing through the noisy crowd. With every step he took, his heart grew heavier. In his past life, he was too late. By the time he got there, he only saw Shen Yuchu sitting alone on the empty hallway bench, clutching that blood-stained IOU. Her eyes were as hollow as a shattered porcelain doll's. Turning the corner of the corridor, that exact scene played out once again. But this time, it was different. Right at the entrance stood a circle of 5 or 6 men in black tank tops, their arms covered in tattoos. The leader was a bald guy rocking a thick gold chain around his neck. He was aggressively pointing his finger at the girl in front of him, roaring, "No money? If you ain't got the cash, why bother with treatment? Once the old geezer kicks the bucket, it's the perfect excuse to hand the factory over to us. Hurry up and sign it, and we'll front the surgery cash for you. Otherwise, nobody is getting in there today." The girl trapped in the middle was none other than Shen Yuchu. She was wearing a baggy blue and white school uniform. Her usually neat high ponytail was a mess, with a few strands of wet hair clinging to her pale cheeks. She bit down hard on her lip. Her frail body, standing before those burly thugs, looked like it could collapse at any second. But she didn't take a single step back. Spreading her arms wide, she stubbornly blocked the hospital room door. "This is a hospital. You can't do this. I've already called the police." Her voice was trembling, yet filled with a desperate stubbornness. "The police? Even the cops have to play by the rules." The bald man sneered, reaching out to shove Shen Yuchu. "Get lost. Go in and pull the old geezer's oxygen. Let's see if he signs it then." Doctors and nurses nearby tried to step in, but backed away from the fierce glares of the other thugs. The patients' families steered clear, terrified of getting dragged into it. Shen Yuchu closed her eyes in despair. At this very moment, she felt like her whole world was collapsing. A tidal wave of helplessness threatened to drown her, just as the bald man's rough, massive hand was about to touch Shen Yuchu's shoulder. A slender yet powerful hand suddenly reached out from the side, gripping the bald man's wrist with dead-on precision. "Causing trouble in a hospital isn't a good look, is it?" His cold voice cut right through the heavy rain and loud cursing, ringing clearly in everyone's ears. Shen Yuchu snapped her eyes open. Standing in front of her was a boy, completely drenched in rain. Rainwater dripped down his sharp jawline. His messy black hair shadowed his eyes. It couldn't hide the sudden, freezing glare that shot from them. Lin Fan? Shen Yuchu froze. She knew Lin Fan. Even though they weren't in the same class, Lin Fan was famous in their grade as the aloof genius, who was actually secretly a total softie. Their families didn't live too far apart, either. But she never imagined that at a time when everyone else was running away, he would be the one to step up. The bald man froze for a second, then flew into a rage. He yanked hard to shake off Lin Fan's hand, only to realize that this seemingly scrawny high schooler had terrifying strength. His grip was locked in place like a pair of iron pliers. "Where the hell did you come from, you little brat? Trying to play hero? You got a death wish?" The bald man swung his other fist right at him. Lin Fan didn't dodge, he didn't even blink. In his mind, he calmly booted up his AI. Run facial recognition, pull up this guy's file. Focus on his weaknesses, criminal record, and his recent cash flow. Cross-referencing. Target identified. Wang Chang, alias Bald Chang, a mid-level boss in a local Haicheng loan shark ring. Weakness analysis. Number 1. The subject is a gambling addict. 3 days ago, he lost 200,000 in gang funds at an underground casino. He is currently skimming from collected bad debts to cover the hole. Behind his boss, Brother Long's back, he pocketed last month's interest payments. In just 1 second, the information advantage was secured. Lin Fan let go of his hand, using the momentum to give him a light shove. The redirected force sent the bald man stumbling back a couple of steps. "I don't want to fight." Lin Fan pulled out a pack of tissues, taking one out and handing it to Shen Yuchu behind him. His movements were so gentle, it was as if the thugs surrounding them didn't even exist. "Wipe your face. You'll catch a cold." Shen Yuchu stared blankly as she took the tissue. His mind went completely blank. Kill him. Feeling humiliated, the bald guy signaled his goons and charged forward. Lin Fan whipped his head around, his eyes instantly turning as sharp as daggers. Fixing a deadly glare on the bald guy, he took a step forward. In a fast, low voice that only the two of them could hear, he muttered. "Wang Chang, the underground casino in the South District. Table 13, you lost 200,000 on that straight flush. That was the gang's money, wasn't it?" The bald guy's charging footsteps halted abruptly, as if his feet were nailed to the floor. His eyes went wide, staring at Lin Fan like he'd just seen a ghost. "Wah, what the hell are you talking about?" A wicked smirk played on Lin Fan's lips as he kept whispering. He spoke rapid fire, like the whispers of a demon. "If Boss Long finds out you used the collected interest to cover your own debts, do you really think you get to keep that hand?" Cold sweat instantly broke out across the bald guy's forehead. He had kept this highly classified. Not even his own wife knew about it. How could this random high schooler possibly know? Who are you?" The bald guy's voice started to tremble. "Who I am doesn't matter." Lin Fan patted the bald guy's stiff shoulder and smoothed out his collar. "What matters is, the Shen family's debt is a legitimate commercial loan. It's not even due yet. You rushing over here to shake them down today. You just wanted to snatch the cash to cover your own ass, didn't you?" That sentence completely shattered the bald guy's mental defenses. Lin Fan took a step back and raised his voice, making sure everyone around could hear. "Well, are you gonna get lost, or do you want me to give Boss Long a call and say hi?" Truth be told, Lin Fan didn't have Boss Long's number at all. He didn't even know what the guy looked like, but that didn't stop him from bluffing. In an era where information was scarce, holding the core intel meant holding the power of life and death. The bald guy's eyes darted around nervously. He didn't dare to call the bluff. What if this kid actually had some major backing? "Fine, you win this round." The bald guy gritted his teeth and pointed at Shen Yuchu. "We'll let it slide today since this punk had to play hero. But if you don't pay up in 3 days, I'll tear this whole hospital to the ground. Let's go." The bald guy waved his hand and slinked away with his goons in tow. They had arrived acting all tough, but left looking like whipped dogs. The hallway instantly went dead quiet. Lin Fan let out a deep breath, the tight muscles in his back finally relaxing. He had really been walking a tightrope just now. If the guy was just some irrational hothead who pulled a knife right away, his only option would have been to grab Shen Yuchu and run for their lives. Thank God the AI's data never missed. He turned around and looked at the girl behind him. Shen Yuchu was still standing frozen in place, her hands clutching that tissue for dear life. Her eyes were as red as a rabbit's. All the bravery she had shown earlier completely crumbled in that moment. Tears poured down her face like a broken string of pearls. Thank you, Lin Fan, she choked out through her tears. Her voice was barely a whisper. Lin Fan looked at her like this, his heart aching as if it were being squeezed tightly. In his past life, his own insecurity had made him run away when Shen Yuchu needed him the absolute most. But this time, he was finally standing right here, protecting her. It's okay now, Lin Fan said softly. All the coldness he had when dealing with those thugs was completely gone, replaced by nothing but endless tenderness. But, the surgery fees. Shen Yuchu looked up, staring hopelessly at the tightly shut doors of the The doctor said if he doesn't get surgery right away. My dad, Lin Fan asked, how much is it? 50,000. The upfront cost for the surgery is 50,000. Shen Yuchu lowered her head, her tears dripping down onto the cold floor. We've already sold everything we could at home, and our accounts have been frozen. 50,000. Lin Fan instinctively touched the phone in his pocket. Just half an hour ago, he had made exactly 50,000 bucks. It felt like a script fate had written out perfectly. If he hadn't gone to that internet cafe, if he hadn't taken that bounty, right now, he'd be just as helpless and desperate as Shen Yuchu. Give me the card number. Lin Fan pulled out his phone. What? Shen Yuchu froze for a second. The hospital's payment account, or your card number. Lin Fan's tone left absolutely no room for argument. Lin Fan, no more arguing. Saving his life is what matters right now. Lin Fan cut her off. He tried his best to sound totally relaxed, treating it like a pure business deal. Just consider this alone. Once you graduate, you can work for me to pay it off. And I'll be charging the highest bank interest rate. And you'll have to buy me meals too. Shen Yuchu just stared at him blankly. It was as if she was seeing this boy, who had been at her school for 3 years, for the very first time. In that exact moment, Lin Fan's rain-soaked figure suddenly seemed incredibly tall and strong in her heart, completely sheltering her from all the wind and rain. 10 minutes later, at the payment window, Lin Fan, payment successful. Bed 302 is scheduled for immediate surgery. Hearing the nurse say those words, Shen Yuchu finally completely broke down. Her legs gave out and she started to collapse. Lin Fan's reflexes were lightning fast, firmly catching her by the shoulders. The faint, sweet scent of the girl's shampoo, mixed with the fresh smell of the rain, drifted into his nose. Lin Fan, I promise I'll pay you back. I swear I will. Shen Yuchu gripped Lin Fan's arm so tightly her knuckles turned completely white. A fierce, deeply determined fire burning in her eyes. I know you will. Lin Fan looked deeply into her eyes, nodding with total absolute certainty. The lights above the operating room finally flipped on. Now, it was just the two of them left in that quiet hospital hallway. Lin Fan leaned back against the wall, staring out at the pouring rain. 50,000 bucks, gone before it even had time to warm his pockets. Just like that, he was totally broke all over again. But he wasn't panicking at all. In fact, he kind of wanted to laugh. In this life, money was just a number to him, and there were some things that no amount of numbers could ever buy back. AI, Lin Fan called out in his mind. Map it out for me. How do I use zero upfront cost to leverage 1 million bucks? Within 3 days, I need to wipe out the Shen family's debt completely. Understood. Generating plan. It is recommended to exploit the time lag loophole in the ringback tone services. Combining this with the most popular SP service providers. Billing interfaces. Estimated return on investment, 2000%. Risk level. Lin Fan stared out at the night sky, his gaze growing dark and intense. The heavy rain had stopped, but the storm of his era was just beginning to brew. 2 a.m. Dripping wet, Lin Fan walked back into the Black Hawk Internet Cafe. Right now, it was peak grinding hours for the all-night gamers. The clacking of keyboards had thinned out. The air was thick with the salty stench of dried-up instant ramen and the sickly sweet smell of Red Bull. Fan, bro, you're finally back. Fatty Joe had been leaning on the front desk, bragging to the cashier girl with the wild hair. Seeing Lin Fan walk in, his eyes instantly lit up. The boss just told me. He saved the VIP room in the very back for you. Real leather sofas, the AC is freezing cold, and he even threw in a whole case of Coke. Lin Fan nodded and walked straight into the so-called VIP room. It was really just a tiny space partitioned off with frosted glass, holding 2 computers with slightly better specs. And a 2-seater sofa, which was pretty rare for back then. "Fatty, stop messing around with games. It's time to work." Lin Fan sat down and cracked open a can of Coke. The ice-cold liquid rushed down his throat, pushing down the gnawing hunger in his stomach. "Work? On what? Do you know what time it is? We're not doing the gold farming runs?" Fatty Joe let out a massive yawn and plopped down next to him. The sofa let out a miserable creak under his weight. Lin Fan pulled that futuristic titanium phone out of his pocket and tossed it onto the desk. His gaze turned dead serious. "You wanna make $1 million in 3 days?" Fatty Joe nearly did a spit take with his Coke. Cough, cough, cough. "You out of your damn mind? Even robbing a bank takes time to map out an escape route. 1 million in 3 days? What, in Monopoly money? SP services." Lin Fan spat out the words. Fatty Joe froze. He was an absolute internet veteran. So of course he knew what SP was. In 2008, it was the Wild West for mobile value-added services. Sending texts for weather forecasts. Downloading ringtones, paying for digital fortune-telling. These tiny, harmless-looking little services were secretly raking in insane, explosive profits. But the waters in this industry ran deep. It was completely monopolized by shady distributors with literal mafia ties. "Fan, bro, I know that stuff prints money. But we don't have any connections. Plus, the cell carriers are cracking down hard on it now. Those old malicious billing codes are hard to sneak in these days." "Who said we're going to scam people?" Lin Fan opened his laptop, his fingers lightly tapping on the keyboard. "What we are going to make is a product that makes users willingly open their wallets. Even beg us to take their money." He turned his head to look at Fatty Joe. "Your cousin, Arhu, isn't he a channel manager at an SP company? Doesn't he have China Mobile's billing code interface?" Fatty Joe's eyes widened. "Holy crap, how did you know? I never even told you about that." Lin Fan didn't explain that it was, of course, found by the AI. He just said quickly, "Right now. Call him, tell him. No matter which foot massage parlor or mahjong table he's at, to get his ass over here immediately with his billing interface documents. Just say, there's a deal. That can multiply his sales performance this month by 10. Fatty Joe was half skeptical, but looking at Lin Fan's eyes, which looked exceptionally eerie reflecting the glow of the screen, he was somehow compelled to take out his Nokia. While the fat guy was making the call, Lin Fan had already started working. AI, create project directory. Target platform, Symbian, S60, V3. J2ME, MTK. Core function, smart semantic predictive input. Downgraded version, 2. Cross-platform instant messaging, pseudo GPRS channel. Viral growth mechanism, truth or dare, testing, command confirmed, calling the 2024 AI large model. Distilled algorithm, currently translating Python and C++ logic into J2ME code. The mobile phone market in 2008 was ruled by Nokia. People were still struggling to type pinyin on 9-key keypads. Sending a single text message cost 10 cents. Saving a new message meant you had to delete an old one. What Lin Fan wanted to create was a small software named Lingxi SoulLink, which was only 200 kilobytes in size. Lin Fan's fingers turned into a blur on the keyboard. The code on the screen didn't appear line by line, but refreshed block by block. Java class libraries were refactored. Symbian's underlying permissions were forcefully bypassed. Half an hour later, the private room door was pushed open, and a strong stench of alcohol rushed in. "This is the coding god you were talking about? He looks like a high schooler skipping class." Lin Fan didn't turn around. He just said faintly, "Nokia N73, S63rd edition system. Take out your phone." Arhu froze for a second, subconsciously pulling out his newly bought phone. "What for?" "Turn on Bluetooth. Receive a file." Arhu frowned, turning on his Bluetooth. Soon, a file named SoulLink was transferred over. "Install it, then send a random message to any friend in your contacts." Arhu cursed as he tapped away. "Playing dumb tricks, huh? If you dare plant a virus on my phone, I'll completely wreck the two of you." The installation was incredibly fast. The software launched. The interface was so clean, it didn't even look like a product of this era. Not a single flashy ad, just a sleek, dark blue speech bubble. Arhu tested it by typing the first letters for tonight into the search bar. Instantly, the screen auto-completed a full sentence. Where are we going drinking tonight? The usual place. Holy shit. Arhu sobered up in an instant. How the hell is this auto-complete so accurate? He tried typing an insult this time. The screen popped up. Screw you. Interesting. Arhu muttered under his breath, clicking the crush test in the top right corner. Lin Fan guided him. Arhu opened it up. A mysterious pink interface appeared on the screen. Enter the phone number of your secret crush. We will test the waters for you anonymously. If they have a crush on you too, the system will automatically match you. Arhu was a seasoned veteran of the nightlife scene. The moment he saw those words, his breath caught in his throat for a second. This feature is so freaking insane. It completely nails human nature. Almost possessed, he typed in the number of a foot massage parlor girl he'd been chasing recently, and hit send. A pop-up appeared on the screen. Message sent successfully. Want to know if they read your message? Unlock VIP privileges. For only $2. Damn, that's sweet. That yes button was designed with a mesmerizing, colorful glow. It lured the user's finger in like absolute magic. As an industry insider, Arhu, of course, knew this was a hidden subscription trap. But he knew even better. That for those hormone-driven teenagers, this kind of trap was a 100% guaranteed kill. This app, you coded this yourself? Arhu's head snapped up. The way he looked at Lin Fan had completely changed. It was like he was staring at a literal goldmine. This is just a demo version. As long as you give me the SP billing interface, I can launch it officially tonight. We split the profits 50-50. 50-50? Kid, aren't you getting a little too greedy? Arhu narrowed his eyes, revealing his cunning businessman side. I control the distribution channels. And I can easily pay someone to crack your code. Go ahead and try. This code is protected by a dynamic obfuscation shell. It mutates every 10 minutes. Except for me, absolutely no one can maintain it. Plus, aside from your channels, there are 3 other SP agents in Haicheng City. If you don't want it, I'll walk right out that door and go find Baldy Chang. I'm sure he'd be extremely interested in this project. At the mention of his rival's name, Arhu's expression darkened instantly. He gritted his teeth. Completely sobered up, he stared at the teenager sitting across from him. An inexplicable chill crept down his spine. These negotiation skills, this absolute psychological dominance. The kid was acting like a seasoned veteran. 40-60. You take 40%, I take 60. I still need to grease some palms at the mobile carrier, after all. 50-50. The price is firm, and I want daily payouts. Every day at 12 noon sharp, wire yesterday's cut to my account. If it's short even a single cent, the servers go offline immediately. Arhu slapped his thigh hard. The private room fell into a dead silence. Only the humming of the computer cooling fans could be heard. After a long moment, deal, damn it, if you can actually pull in the traffic, I'll even call you daddy. Here are the latest cross-network billing API docs. It supports China Mobile, Unicom, and even PHS networks. Wire it up yourself. He pulled a flash drive from his briefcase and tossed it on the table. Lin Fan caught the flash drive, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. Pleasure doing business. For the next 6 hours, the VIP room turned into a war zone. Fatty Joe was in charge of hitting up all the major forums and message boards, spamming QQ groups to build the hype. The promotional copy was generated by Lin Fan using AI. The headlines were pure clickbait. Shocking. The ultimate confession tool used by all the campus idols. Just type in a number to find out who has a crush on you. Unlock hidden Nokia features. Boost your typing speed by 300%. Meanwhile, Lin Fan was coding like a madman. He integrated the billing SDK, optimized the network packets, deployed the cloud database, and set up zombie servers as temporary proxies. By 7 in the morning, the first ray of sunlight pierced through the grimy curtains of the Black Hawk Internet Cafe, catching Lin Fan's bloodshot eyes. Done. Lin Fan smashed the enter key one last time. Project Soul Link, Lingxi version 1.0, was officially live. At this moment, the download count. Is this really gonna work? Fatty Joe asked, sporting heavy dark circles. He stared intently at the backend data. Lin Fan stretched, his joints popping with a crisp crack. He stood up and walked over to the window, watching the breakfast stalls bustling to life downstairs, and the students hurrying by in their school uniforms. Let the bullets fly for a bit. By 10 a.m., inside the classroom of senior year, class 2, even though the college entrance exams were over, a lot of students had come back to pick up their files or estimate their scores. Sitting in the back row, the class know-it-all, Zhang Wei, was secretly playing on his phone under the desk. He was the very first guy in class to get a Nokia N78. And he always loved showing off new apps. "Hey, Zhang Wei, why are you smiling like such a creep?" The girl sitting in front of him turned around and asked curiously. "Shush, check this out." Zhang Wei handed his phone over with a secretive grin. "I just found this insane app on the forums. It's called Lingxi. It makes you type insanely fast, and it can even tell you who has a crush on you." Peeved. "Yeah, right, like I'd fall for that." The girl scoffed, pretending not to believe it, but her hands betrayed her as she eagerly took the phone. "I'm serious. I just punched in the number of the prettiest girl from the next class, and it actually told me we have a high match." Zhang Wei's face flushed bright red with excitement. "I paid 2 yuan to take a peek. It didn't give me her name, but the clue said she has long hair and loves wearing white dresses. It's definitely her." The girl's heart skipped a beat. She secretly glanced at the boy sitting in the corner, reading his book, and her heart fluttered wildly like a bunch of nervous butterflies. How'd I download it? I'll send it to you via Bluetooth. This app is only 200 kilobytes. It'll send in a second." The exact same scene was playing out crazily across dozens of middle schools, universities, and even office buildings in Haicheng. In 2008, there was no App Store, and no MyApp. Software distribution relied mainly on Bluetooth, infrared, and pinned posts on major mobile forums. This peer-to-peer, person-to-person transmission model, although slow to start, once word of mouth was established, had extremely high stickiness, especially the secret crush test feature, which hit the soft spot of all young people like a virus. Who hasn't had a secret crush? Who wouldn't want to know if the other person likes them back? Even knowing it might just be fake. For that 1 in 10,000 hope, what's spending $2? $2 is just the price of a bottle of soda. At 12 noon, inside the VIP room of Black Eagle Internet Cafe, Fatty Joe was fast asleep face down on the desk. His snoring was absolutely deafening. Lin Fan, on the other hand, was staring at a line chart on the screen. Holding that already warm can of soda in his hand, the data started jumping. At 12 noon, that line chart suddenly acted like it was on steroids, showing an almost 90-degree vertical surge. User count, 2,000. Paid orders count, 3,000 orders. In just a single morning, the revenue broke through 6,000 yuan, and this was just a localized outbreak in the single city of Haicheng. With the forum post pinned, IP addresses from all over the country started flooding in. The speakers on the desk suddenly let out a rapid string of warning alarms. Fatty Joe was so scared he rolled right off the sofa. "What's wrong? Are the cops here?" "It's not the cops, it's the traffic exploding." Lin Fan frowned slightly, his fingers flying rapidly across the keyboard. The screen showed the server CPU usage had spiked to 99%. The bandwidth was maxed out in the red. That cheap virtual host they originally rented to save money didn't handle this kind of exponential concurrent access at all. "It's frozen solid, it's not moving at all." Fatty Joe stared at the backend in panic. "Brother Fan, what do we do? This is just the beginning. If it crashes now, the users will definitely curse us out and uninstall it." Lin Fan's eyes remained frighteningly calm. "AI, initiate swarm mode. Command confirmed. Scanning public network for idle computing power. Retrieved 1,200 zombie hosts with weak password vulnerabilities. Deploying distributed nodes." This was a peer-to-peer distributed computing technology that hadn't been widely applied yet in 2008. Lin Fan used the AI's computing power to instantly turn these thousands of zombie computers into his temporary CDN acceleration nodes. Although the method was a bit gray, desperate times call for desperate measures. The red alert on the screen instantly cleared. The CPU usage dropped back down to 30%. Meanwhile, inside a high-end office building in Haicheng, in the general manager's office of Dingsheng Technology, an SP company, Arhu was kicking back with his legs crossed, playing cards, when suddenly the office door crashed open. "Boss, we've got a massive situation." The tech guy rushed in, sweating bullets. "What the hell are you panicking for?" China Mobile's gateway responded. "It's that Lingxi API. The revenue is blowing up." The tech guy slapped a printed report onto the desk. His hands were literally shaking. "From this morning until now, in just 4 hours, the SMS billing requests have smashed past 20,000. And it's still doubling." "How many?" Arhu shot up so fast he knocked his chair over. 20,000 hits, at $2 a pop. That's 40,000 bucks, 40 grand in 4 hours. That means 240,000 a day. Over 7 million a month. In 2008, when the average monthly salary was barely 2,000 bucks, this was an absolute astronomical number. Arhu's eyes instantly went bloodshot. It was a vicious, burning greed. He remembered that 50-50 split agreement with Lin Fan. If they actually went by that contract, he'd have to hand over 3 million bucks a month to some high schooler. Like hell, the channels are mine. Why the fuck should I give that much to some little brat who just writes code? Arhu lowered his voice, his face twisting into a sinister scowl. Can you lock him out of the back end? Just hijack all the cash? We'll just tell him China Mobile froze the payouts, or blame it on a data glitch and write it off as bad debt. The tech guy gulped hard. I mean, yeah, it's doable. If I just change our authentication password on the mobile gateway, his software won't be able to process any charges. Then every single penny goes straight into our pockets. But my ass, do it right freaking now. Arhu was already completely blinded by the money. What's a stupid kid gonna do about it anyway? Worst case, we throw a few grand at him and tell him to piss off. 2 p.m. Black Hawk Internet Cafe. Lin Fan was slurping down some instant ramen. On the screen, the wildly jumping revenue numbers suddenly flatlined to absolutely zero. Holy shit, why did it hit zero? Did the server crash again? Lin Fan calmly put down his fork, pulled a tissue, and wiped his mouth. He moved with the elegance of someone eating fine dining. There wasn't a single trace of surprise in his eyes. Only a faint, knowing smirk of mockery. The server didn't crash. Their greedy little hearts did. Lin Fan picked up his phone. He stared at the backend logs displaying on the screen. Error code 403. Authentication failed. SP channel distributor has modified the access key. That son of a bitch, Arhu. He's trying to double-cross us. Fatty Joe finally caught on. Furious, he smashed his ramen bowl violently onto the floor. I'm gonna kill that bastard. Sit down, Lin Fan barked coldly. Bro, that's tens of thousands of bucks. That's the money to save Shen Yuchu's dad's life. Fatty Joe's eyes were completely red. I know. Lin Fan stood up. He walked over to the window, looking out at the bustling, crowded streets below. Greed is the ultimate bait for humanity. If he didn't swallow this hook, I didn't even have an excuse to take him down yet. Sigh. Lin Fan silently thought to himself. Activate the code hidden inside Soul Link. Logic bomb inside the jar file. Trigger condition. SP interface authentication fails more than 3 times. Command confirmed. Logic bomb detonated. Payload. Lock down all business channels of the SP distributor, and to the mobile headquarters inspection system. Automatically send an anonymous tip, attaching this SP company's past 3 years of illegal charging evidence. Since he wants to hog it all, then I'll completely destroy his livelihood. Right at this exact moment, over at Ding Sheng Tech, suddenly, every computer screen in the company flickered at the exact same time. Right after that, all the running business systems threw up massive red warning boxes. Critical system error, core database locked, what the hell is going on? Before Arhu could even process it, the red phone on his desk started ringing. It was the direct line from the Provincial Mobile Inspection Bureau. Arhu's hands shook as he picked up the receiver. A cold, furious roar exploded from the other end. Zhao Arhu, what the hell is your company playing at? Why did our monitoring system just get hit with thousands of user complaints? And there's an email with solid proof of your money laundering. It was sent straight to the Ministry of Industry's tip box. If you want to dig your own grave, don't drag me down with you. Bam, the line went dead. Arhu's face instantly drained of all color, pale as a ghost. The phone slipped from his fingers and crashed to the floor. It's over. Everything is ruined. That's no arrogant brat. That kid is the literal Grim Reaper. 5 minutes later, Lin Fan's phone began to ring. The caller ID read, Arhu. Lin Fan took his sweet time answering the call. He didn't say a single word, and just listened in total silence. Lord Fan, my absolute savior. Arhu's pathetic, sobbing wail echoed from the other end. I was so wrong. I was blind not to see who I was messing with. Please, I'm begging you, call off your attack. The inspection bureau is already on their way. If they lock me up, you won't see a single dime of that cash either. So, now you're panicking? Lin Fan replied with a cold, calm voice. You were acting pretty cocky when you locked me out of the system earlier. I was a complete idiot. I'm a piece of trash. It sounded like Arhu was violently slapping his own face over the phone. Let's adjust our cut. 30-70. You take 70, I take 30. No, wait, 20-80. Hell, I'll give it all to you. Just please, I'm begging you. Recall that tip-off email and unlock my servers. I'm not a greedy guy. We stick to 50-50. Lin Fan's tone remained deadpan. However, you need to front me 500,000 in cash right now. You have exactly 30 minutes to bring it to the Black Eagle Cyber Cafe. If you're short even a single penny, you can get ready to rot in a prison cell for the rest of your life. I'll bring it right now. I'm heading to the bank to pull the cash as we speak. Arhu gasped like a drowning man grasping a lifeline, and slammed the phone down. Lin Fan turned his head, looking at Fatty Joe, who was already staring in absolute shock. Fatty, get a sack ready. Lin Fan smiled, and that smile carried a faint trace of bloodlust. The money's here. Half an hour later, Erhu rushed into the private booth, sweating buckets and lugging a heavy black canvas bag. The way he looked at Lin Fan was filled with pure terror, as if he were looking at a monster. When those 50 bundles of bright red 100 yuan bills were piled onto the table, Fatty Joe felt his breathing literally stop. Lin Fan didn't even count the money. He just clacked out a few lines of code on the keyboard. Done. The system's back up. That report letter was just a timed draft. I've cancelled it. In reality, it had been sent a long time ago. It's just that he sent an edited, minor violation version. Just enough to get Erhu fined and forced to clean up his act. But not enough to shut him down instantly. After all, Lin Fan still needed this channel to rake in cash. After sending off a practically worshipping Erhu, combined with today's incoming cash flow, he'd be able to scrape together 1 million yuan by tomorrow. The Shen family's debt crisis was officially solved, but right at that moment, Lin Fan's phone buzzed again. It wasn't Shen Yuchu. It was an unknown Beijing number. Lin Fan answered the call. Hello? Am I speaking to Mr. Q, the developer of Lingxi? The voice on the other end was a crisp, professional woman's voice, dripping with a condescending sense of superiority. I'm from the TX Strategic Investment Department at Penguin Corporation. We've noticed some abnormal data from your product. Interested in discussing a buyout? Or, if you refuse, we can guarantee that your product will vanish from the entire internet by tomorrow. Lin Fan's grip on the phone tightened slightly. So they're making their move already? Memories of his past life flooded his mind. Penguin in 2008 was the notorious king of copycats. Any small product they set their sights on would either be bought out for pennies, or cloned pixel by them, and then starved to death using their massive traffic monopoly. This was the ruthless law of the jungle in this era. The smirk on Lin Fan's lips grew deeper. It was the pure thrill of a hunter spotting a wild beast. Want to buy me out? Sure, Lin Fan said into the receiver. But, you guys better upgrade your own firewalls first. Otherwise, it might get a little chilly tonight. Hanging up the phone, Lin Fan stuffed the 500,000 yuan into the bag and slung it over his shoulder. Let's go, Fatty, to the hospital. We're just gonna ignore those big corporations? Fatty Joe asked. Let them run wild for a bit. Lin Fan pushed the door open. The sunlight outside was glaring and intense. In this era, traffic is king, but technology is God. The incandescent lights in the hospital corridors always carried a chilling, deathly pale glow, mixed with the harsh smell of 84 brand disinfectant. It formed a barrier between life and death. Shen Yuchu was sitting on the bench outside the emergency room, her hands twisted together tightly, her knuckles turning completely white from the strain. The hem of her school uniform skirt was still splattered with mud spots from last night's rain. She looked entirely like a little bird caught in a stormy, like a butterfly with a broken wing. Beside her, her mother, Lu Pingping, was leaning against the wall, sobbing softly, clutching a stack of collection notices as thick as a brick. Mom, please, don't cry. Shen Yuchu's voice was hoarse. We'll figure something out. Figure what out? Lu Pingping looked up with red, swollen eyes, shaking her head in sheer despair. Even though we've scraped together enough for the surgery. But those suppliers, they just called again. They said if they don't see the payment by tomorrow, they're going to seize our house to pay off the debt. Chew. Our family is truly finished this time. Shen Yuchu bit her lip so hard she tasted a hint of blood. Right at that moment, heavy footsteps echoed from the end of the corridor. Shen Yuchu looked up instinctively. Against the light, two figures were striding toward them. The young man in front was wearing a simple white t-shirt, carrying a slightly worn-out black canvas bag. His steady pace didn't belong to an 18-year-old high schooler. Behind him followed a panting, heavily sweating chubby guy, Lin Fan. Shen Yuchu froze. Lin Fan walked right up to the mother and daughter. And without a single wasted word, he just slipped the canvas bag off his back and slammed it heavily onto the bench. Thud, the muffled sound instantly quieted down the previously noisy corridor. Here is 500,000. Lin Fan's voice was as calm as if he were saying, "The weather is nice today." Lu Pingping stopped crying, staring blankly at that unremarkable canvas bag. What? Lin Fan reached out and unzipped it. In that split second, the red glow seemed to sting everyone's eyes. 50 neat bundles of 100 yuan bills, stacked up like an indestructible fortress inside that worn-out bag. At this very moment, this massive fortune was just sitting there, completely exposed to the open air. Lin Fan looked at Lu Pingping, his tone perfectly steady and respectful. "This is 500,000 in cash, auntie. Take this first and settle the payments with those suppliers who are making the biggest fuss. Use the rest for uncle's post-surgery recovery." Lu Pingping was completely stunned. She looked at the money, then looked at Lin Fan, her hands trembling uncontrollably. "This money, where did you get this, young man? You can't be doing anything illegal. Don't worry, it's totally clean, legitimate income." Lin Fan smiled slightly, turning to look at Shen Yuchu, who was completely petrified. "I told you yesterday I'd lend you the money. Consider this an advance payment, principal and interest included." Shen Yuchu abruptly stood up, her eyes instantly welling up with tears. She stared fixedly at Lin Fan, as if trying to see right through the boy's soul. "Lin Fan, who exactly are you? Where did you get all this money? Just yesterday he was clearly just an ordinary classmate. How did he pull out this massive fortune today like some kind of magic trick?" Lin Fan looked into her eyes, which were filled with fear and confusion, and felt a slight ache in his heart. He knew this was terrifying, but he didn't have time to explain. Nor did he have the time to slowly ease her into it. He took a step forward. He spoke in a voice so soft, only Shen Yuchu could hear. "Shen Yuchu, do you trust me?" Lin Fan half joked, trying to lighten the mood. Shen Yuchu just froze. "If you trust me, take it. Consider this an investment in your future. Basically buying your soul. After all, a future genius physicist is gonna be worth way more than this." Shen Yuchu had no idea what he meant by physicist, but she completely understood the unwavering trust in his voice. She looked into Lin Fan's deep eyes. There wasn't a single trace of pity, only an ocean of pure, boundless support. Finally, her hands trembling, she reached out. She gripped the straps of the canvas bag. The sheer weight of it made her arms ache. But miraculously, her racing heart finally found peace. "I trust you," she choked out through her tears. In that very moment, the girl who had plummeted into absolute despair in his past life was finally caught by a pair of strong, steady hands. After settling everything at the hospital, Lin Fan flat out refused Lu Pingping's offer to write an IOU. He dragged Fatty Joe out of there. The second they stepped through the hospital doors, Fatty Joe collapsed onto the steps, gasping for air. "Bro, that was 500,000. And you just dumped it there? You didn't even make them sign anything." "Fatty, that was money to save a life." Fatty Joe's eyes went wide. Lin Fan just calmly lit a cigarette, an old habit from his past life, even though his current body wasn't quite used to the smoke. He stared out at the endless stream of traffic. "Besides, we'll make that money back in no time." "Make it back? Dude, what about Lingxi? Hasn't the Penguin Group already put a target on our backs? You were acting so damn cocky on the phone earlier. They're absolutely gonna crush us." "They already are." Lin Fan pulled out his phone. The screen displayed the live backend data for Lingxi. The growth curve, which had been climbing steadily, took a massive nosedive just 10 minutes ago. Downloads, active users, what the hell is going on? Fatty Joe leaned in for a closer look, and nearly jumped out of his skin. Lin Fan just let out a cold laugh. He opened his messaging app, dropping a message into a group chat. That contained the download link for Lingxi. But the very second he hit send, a glaring red exclamation mark popped up. A system warning flashed on the screen. "Warning, this link poses a security risk and has been blocked by the system. Please do not proceed." And that wasn't all. Lin Fan tried pinging the Lingxi server IP, only to find the response time crawling at a snail's pace. A network-wide shadow ban on our links, topped off with a massive DDoS attack. Lin Fan casually flicked his cigarette ash. The classic 3-hit combo from Big Tech. Ruthless. They didn't even give a warning before going straight for the kill. In an era where traffic is king, Penguin held the absolute monopoly over social networking. The moment they block your links on QQ, you're practically silenced across the entire internet. Add a DDoS attack to paralyze the servers on top of that. For any small startup team, this was an absolute death sentence. What do we do now? Are we totally screwed? Fatty Joe was pacing in frantic circles. That bastard Arhu just texted me cursing his head off. He said all the mobile data over there got completely cut off. Don't panic. Lin Fan crushed out his cigarette. He stood up, a gleam of excitement flashing in his eyes. The more desperate they are to ban us, the more it shows how terrified they are. If a tech giant like Penguin isn't threatened by you, they'll just ignore you, or rip you off straight away. It's only when they realize they're too late to copy you, or can't figure out your core tech, that they resort to dirty tricks like this. Let's go. Back to the cyber cafe? To do what? To curse them out? No. Lin Fan's lips curled into a ruthless smirk. To give them a special little gift. Meanwhile, in Shenzhen, inside the Penguin Tower, the senior manager of strategic investments, Wang Laowu, was sitting in his massive office chair, holding a cup of Starbucks. He was listening to his subordinates report. Mr. Wang, that Lingxi server has already been crushed by our bot traffic. All their links spreading in the chats have been banned too. They're basically dead in the water now. The tech lead said, his face full of flattery. Wang Laowu took a sip of his coffee, his eyes filled with contempt. Just an arrogant high school kid. We gave him a chance, and he spit in our faces. He actually thought coding a mildly interesting mini-app meant he could challenge us. In this industry, whoever we want dead has to die. But, Mr. Liu, the tech lead hesitated for a moment. About the core code of that software, we ran a reverse engineering analysis on it. It's a bit freaky. Freaky how? That smart predictive text feature of theirs. We can't find a local word bank for it anywhere. It seems to be connecting in real time to an insanely massive cloud database. And the response speed is so fast it defies the laws of physics. Our engineers tried to write a knockoff, but the execution speed isn't even 1/10 of theirs. Wang Laowu frowned. Then just keep throwing more servers at it. I refuse to believe that a tech team of our size can't crack the code of some amateur programmer. By tomorrow, I want to see our Chad Destiny app launched online. The features need to be completely identical to theirs. Yes, of course. Wang Laowu looked out the window at the bustling Shannon Avenue. He let out a cold sneer. Technology? In the face of capital and traffic, technology doesn't mean shit. What he didn't know was that at this very moment, in a rundown cyber cafe 1,000 miles away, the kid he looked down on as a mere ant was typing out a command that was about to make the entire Penguin security department tremble in fear. Black Hawk Cyber Cafe. VIP room. The air was thick with the deadly tension of an impending war. Lin Fan's fingers flew across the keyboard. The code on the screen was no longer your standard Java or C++, but rather a much more low-level assembly language, almost bordering on raw machine code. AI. Analyze the signature scanning mechanism of Penguin Security Manager. Parsing now. Target utilizes signature string matching and behavioral heuristic scanning. Initiating vulnerability detection. It has a logic flaw that causes scans to time out and skip heavily packed DLL files. Lin Fan smirked. Security software from 2008 is still stuck in the primitive stage of black and white listing. As long as the file is packed thickly enough, or exploits the system's underlying whitelist mechanism, it can be easily bypassed. Since you guys blocked my links, I'll just find another way in. Lin Fan turned to Fatty Joe and said, Fatty, go log into those thousands of burner accounts we registered on the forums earlier. Whether it's Mop, Tianya, or Baidu Tieba, to do what? Make posts? Fatty Joe asked. Post patches, Lin Fan said, his eyes darkening with calculation. Since they launched this competitor, Chad Destiny, just to mess with me, I'll just give them a little helping hand. As it turned out, just half an hour ago, Penguin hastily launched a feature called Chad Destiny. It was embedded directly into the chat panel, and its functions were exactly the same as Lingxi's secret crush test. And it was completely free. This is the terrifying power of an industry giant. Pixel-level plagiarism, followed by a free-to-use strategy to completely crush your defenses. But this exact moment was what Lin Fan had been waiting for. AI, generate code, codenamed Trojan Apple, Feature description. Write a small tool called the Chad Destiny Accelerator. Claim that it can crack Chad Destiny's VIP viewing permissions, allowing you to see who has a secret crush on you for free. Command confirmed. Generating bait program. Core payload successfully implanted. What Lin Fan was about to pull off was a totally ruthless, scorched earth tactic. Supply chain poisoning. Back in this era, clueless users loved downloading all sorts of gaming hacks, accelerators, and cracked software. This small tool Lin Fan generated using AI actually could crack some of Chad Destiny's features on the surface, exploiting an A-PI vulnerability that Penguin hadn't patched yet. But in reality, it was a deadly parasite. Once a user ran this tool, the core code Lin Fan hid inside would silently install a low-level driver of only 20 kilobytes. This driver wouldn't steal data, nor would it damage the computer. It would only do one single thing: take over the connection permissions of Symbian phones. When a user connected their phone to the computer to charge or transfer songs, this driver would automatically push a disguised system service into the phone, System Core v2.sys. This service is the newly refactored version of Lingxi. It's no longer an app that requires the user to actively download it. Instead, it directly becomes a part of the phone's operating system. Moreover, it will automatically modify the phone's host's file, hijacking all Chad Destiny requests aimed at Penguin servers and redirecting them straight back to my own server. Which means, all the heavy traffic that Penguin spent a fortune to promote will ultimately become my users. This is way too twisted, man. Fatty Joe exclaimed after hearing Lin Fan's plan. His jaw practically hit the floor. This is literally having their goose lay our golden eggs. This is called a technical counterattack, Lin Fan said, slamming the enter key. Packaging complete. Let the distribution begin. 10 minutes later, software download sites and Tieba forums were suddenly flooded with countless new posts. The free cracked version of Chad Destiny has leaked. Want to know who has a secret crush on you? Click here to download. Leaked by a Penguin insider. Reveal your secret crush's real name with just one click. This incredibly tempting headline, paired with screenshots proving it actually worked, instantly blew up the internet. Downloads skyrocketed. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. Shenzhen, Penguin Tower. Boss Wang, good news. The tech lead burst into the office. Chad Destiny has only been live for an hour, and traffic just broke 1 million. The servers can barely handle it. Wang Lao Wu threw his head back and laughed. Ha 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 ha, I told you so. In this industry, no one can outplay us. What about that Ling Shi app? Are they dead? There's absolutely no movement from them. Their traffic has already flatlined at 0, the tech lead reported. Perfect, we are having a victory party tonight. Seafood for everyone. Wang Lao Wu waved his hand dismissively, brimming with arrogance. However, even before the party could start, something bizarre happened. 2 hours later, the tech department's phones were ringing off the hook. Boss, something's really wrong. Our backend is showing millions of access requests, but there isn't a single user record in the database. What do you mean? The tech lead was completely dumbfounded. I mean, users are clicking our features on the front end, but the data just vanished into thin air. Or rather, it got hijacked and diverted somewhere else. How is that even possible? Right at that moment, the monitoring curve on the big screen suddenly showed a bizarre spike. The traffic that was supposed to go to Penguin's own domain suddenly did a massive U-turn, routing straight to an unknown IP address. And the page loading from that IP address, even though it looked exactly like Chad Destiny, had a tiny line of text glaring at them from the copyright section at the bottom. A line full of absolute mockery. Tech support provided by Lin Fan. Thanks for the free traffic, Mr. Penguin. Smash. The coffee cup in Wang Lao Wu's hand shattered into pieces. He glared at that line on the screen, his face turning completely purple with rage. Trembling from head to toe, he yelled, "Hackers! This is a cyber attack. Call the cops. Call the cops right now." "We can't, Boss Wang." The tech lead looked like he was about to cry. "We checked into it. They aren't attacking our servers, they targeted the users' computers. Millions of computers got hit with a custom driver. The users are literally handing the traffic over themselves. And the craziest part? That driver actually works. It's clearing viruses and speeding up their systems. People don't even want to uninstall it. This is a poisoned apple. Once you take a bite, you can never spit it out." Meanwhile, at the Black Hawk Internet Cafe, Lin Fan sat back and watched the data in his backend exploding wildly. This time, it's not just a few thousand. It's 3 million daily active users. Penguin used all their network resources to promote it all afternoon, only to hand it all over to Lin Fan on a silver platter. Those users who originally belonged to their chat app now have an undeletable Lingxi service sitting on their phones, not that they'd want to delete it anyway. Fatty, get ready to scale up the servers. How much are we gonna make this time? Lin Fan shook his head. Zhou Depeng's voice was trembling. We aren't making money this time. Lin Fan's gaze pierced right through the screen, as if he could see the future of the mobile internet era. With these 3 million seed users we've latched onto, what we're building is no longer just some small SP software. He stood up and walked over to the whiteboard. He picked up a marker and wrote down 2 letters. It wasn't about making money, nor was it about revenge. It was versus X. In 2008, I'm going to end the SMS era ahead of schedule. Lin Fan's voice wasn't loud, but it struck like thunder in the cramped private room. Since Penguin wants to play, then I'll play the big game with them. I'm going to dig up their foundation and tear down their moat. Right in the social networking field they're so damn proud of. I'm going to plant my flag. AI, loading instant messaging IMV 2.0 architecture. Enabling voice transmission protocol. Command confirmed. Currently extracting from the 2011 VX 1.0 version. Voice compression algorithm extracted, adapted for the Symbian narrowband network. In the summer of 2008, while everyone was still using their thumbs to tap out text messages, Lin Fan pressed down on the Hold to Talk button that was about to change the world. June 28, 2008, was destined to be written into the history of the Chinese internet. Even though at this very moment, most people knew absolutely nothing about it. The Beijing Olympic torch was being passed around, and every street and alley was playing Beijing Welcomes You. Stock investors were still wailing over the market dropping below 2,700 points. But in that smoggy, Black Hawk Internet Cafe VIP room in Haicheng, a silent nuclear explosion was spreading. Brother Fan, this data, is it broken? Zhou Depeng stared at the screen, his eyes wide as saucers, completely oblivious to the half-eaten meat bun dropping from his hand onto the table. The curve on the screen was no longer just climbing, it was spiking vertically. Ever since Lin Fan used the Trojan Apple tactic to hijack all of Penguin's chat matching traffic, Lingxi's backend installation numbers had broken through 5 million in just a single night. But that wasn't even the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was the transmission volume of that data package named Voice Packet V1. It's not broken. Lin Fan leaned deep into the sofa, his eyes completely bloodshot. But he was as pumped up as a wolf that had just tasted blood. That is the users talking. Lin Fan picked up the phone on the table, and pressed and held the giant blue microphone icon right in the middle of the screen. Fatty, look at your phone. Lin Fan spoke softly into the phone's microphone. Hey, Fatty, time to lose some weight. 1 second later, Zhou Depeng's phone suddenly vibrated on the table, and the screen lit up. There was no text message chime, and no download progress bar for a picture message. Just a super simple chat bubble popped up, with a little red dot right next to it. Zhou Depeng subconsciously tapped on the bubble. Hello? Hey big guy, time to lose some weight. Lin Fan's clear, slightly deep and magnetic voice came out perfectly from that beat-up speaker. Zhou Depeng got so spooked he almost threw his phone. He looked at Lin Fan in absolute shock, and then back at his phone. What the heck is this? A walkie-talkie? A voice recorder? I didn't even pick up a call. It's called a voice message. Lin Fan smirked. It's data transmission over the GPRS network. It's not a phone call, so it doesn't use your minutes. It only uses mobile data. Zhou Depeng was a hardcore internet veteran. He instantly realized what that meant. His voice literally cracked. Then how many can you send for 10 cents? The current GPRS data package is 5 yuan for 30 megabytes. My compression algorithm squashes a 10-second voice clip down to 4 kilobytes. So with 30 megabytes of data, you can send about 7,500 voice messages. How many? Zhou Depeng jumped up out of his seat. He crashed to the floor along with his chair. 7,500 messages? Sending a text costs 10 cents. 7,500 texts would cost 750 yuan. Dude, this is basically free. Back in 2008, just imagine what this meant. In an era where people counted every single word in a text, and even used abbreviations just to save a few pennies. In an era where everyone stressed over long-distance roaming charges, just holding down a button to talk and letting go to send an almost free voice message, that was a complete game changer. An absolute massacre for the competition. Have the guys at Penguin realized what's going on yet? Lin Fan asked, his eyes suddenly turning ice cold again. Yeah, they noticed. Zhou Dapeng scrambled to his feet and quickly switched tabs on his screen. All the big forums are throwing a massive fit, complaining about connections dropping. But Ling Shi is working perfectly fine. And a ton of people are posting online, saying Ling Shi just dropped a god-tier feature. They're saying it works just like a walkie-talkie, a million times better than typing out texts. That's not enough, Lin Fan shook his head. Right now, the users just think it's a cool novelty. I need them to become addicted to it. I need them to feel like they literally can't survive without Ling Shi. He looked out the window. The sun was already coming up. Initiate viral expansion plan B. Lin Fan muttered quietly to himself. Command confirmed. Expansion protocol loading. Protocol name. Voice message in a bottle. Execution logic. Allow users to record a quick audio clip and anonymously toss it into the network pool. Other users can fish it out, listen to the voice, try to guess who it is, and start a matched chat. Decades later, this message in a bottle gimmick would be totally played out. But back in 2008, it was an absolute masterclass in harvesting human hormones. Also, Lin Fan added, put Shen Yuchu's number on the whitelist. Any messages from her, I need to see them immediately. Right at that moment, there was a soft knock on the private room door. Who is it? Our all-night session isn't over yet. Fatty Joe yelled impatiently. It's me, came a timid, sweet and clear voice from outside. Fatty Joe froze and hurried over to open the door. As it swung open, there stood Shen Yuchu. She was wearing a simple white floral dress, holding 2 insulated lunchboxes. The morning light spilled over her long, dark hair, making her look as beautiful as a painting. However, her face was still a bit pale. Sister-in-law? Ah, no. Shen, our school beauty. Fatty Joe quickly swallowed the teasing words he was about to say and stepped aside to let her in. Shen Yuchu walked into the room, which was filled with a stench of stale smoke and sweat. She frowned slightly, but didn't say a word. Her gaze swept past the tangled cables and trash on the floor, landing straight on the young man sitting at the computer, his back looking a little lonely. Lin Fan, she called out softly. Lin Fan turned around, the moment he laid eyes on Shen Yuchu. That intense, ready to fight the world hostility he had just a second ago vanished without a trace. What are you doing here? Don't you need to keep an eye on things at the hospital? Lin Fan stood up and tried to pull up a chair for her, but realized it was piled high with empty instant noodle cups. He could only scratch his head in embarrassment. My mom is watching over him. My dad's surgery was a huge success. The doctor said it was all thanks to getting him there in time and paying the fees so quickly. Shen Yuchu set the lunchboxes on the desk and opened them. Inside was steaming hot millet porridge and a few steamed buns. I came to bring you some breakfast. And also, she looked down and pulled a bank card out of her dress pocket. There's still 50,000 in here. The surgery didn't cost as much as we thought. I'm giving the rest back to you. Shen Yuchu held out the card, her eyes filled with stubborn pride. I know this isn't enough to pay you back. I'll get a part-time job to slowly pay off the rest. I'll pay you interest, too. Lin Fan looked at the card, but didn't take it. He knew exactly how Shen Yuchu was. Soft on the outside, but incredibly tough on the inside. She hated owing anyone a favor. If he didn't take it, she would only feel more anxious. Alright, I'll take the money. Lin Fan took the card and casually tossed it next to his keyboard. But forget about working a part-time job to pay me back. It just so happens I'm short on staff right now. Shen Yuchu blinked in surprise, looking around the room. Short on staff? Do you need a cybercafe manager? Fatty Joe, who was gulping down some porridge, sprayed it all over the floor. Lin Fan couldn't help but laugh. No, not a cybercafe manager. I need a chief experience officer, ACEX, and a chief financial officer, ACFO. He handed the phone with the Lingxi app installed on it to Shen Yuchu. Here, try this. Press and hold that blue button, and speak. Shen Yuchu took the phone hesitantly, following Lin Fan's instructions. She held down the button, and tentatively said, "Is a big dummy." After saying that, her face turned red, and she quickly let go. Swoosh, a crisp sending sound echoed. From the computer speakers in front of Lin Fan, Shen Yuchu's shy and playful voice played out. Lin Fan is a big dummy. Shen Yuchu was stunned. Her eyes went wide, staring at the phone, and then back at the computer. Is this a recording? Lin Fan looked right into her eyes, and said earnestly, "From now on, you can use this to talk to me anytime, anywhere. You don't have to worry about phone bills, and you don't have to worry about character limits. Even when you want to cry, you can let me hear it." Shen Yuchu's heart suddenly skipped a beat. In this noisy world, in an era where everyone is just busy surviving, someone gave her a safe haven where she could pour her heart out anytime. Did you make this?" Shen Yuchu asked in disbelief. "I just made it. Not many people are using it yet. Well, actually, 5 million people are already using it. So I need you to help me test it. If this app can make money, your debts will be nothing at all." Just as he was speaking, a red warning box suddenly popped up on the computer screen. This time, it wasn't an attack from Tencent, but a cease and desist warning from the telecom operator. "System alert. Detected that your application is suspected of illegal operations. VoIP internet calling services violate telecommunications regulations. Please stop services immediately, otherwise network access will be cut off and the police will be notified." Zhou Peng's face instantly turned totally pale. "Fan, China Mobile is making their move. They're trying to pull the plug on us." Messing with the telecom operator's profits was way more terrifying than messing with Tencent. Text messages and voice calls were the lifeblood of the operators. Lin Fan creating this free voice messaging was practically tearing down China Mobile's entire empire. Even though Shen Yuchu couldn't understand the code, she could feel the heavy atmosphere. "Are we in trouble?" she asked worriedly, but the expression on Lin Fan's face didn't show a hint of panic. Instead, it revealed the thrill of a hunter watching his prey fall into the trap. He dialed a number. It wasn't Arhu, nor was it his hacker friends. It was Wang Shuiang, the founder of HTC. This moment, she was completely overwhelmed, stressing over the launch of the very first Android phone, the G1. Of course, Lin Fan didn't actually have Wang Shuiang's private number. But his AI did. The phone rang 3 times before it was picked up. A sharp but slightly exhausted female voice came from the other end. "Who is this?" Lin Fan spoke in fluent English. "Ms. Wang. This is Q. I'm calling from China. I have a killer app in my hands. One that will let your HTC G1 completely crush the iPhone 3G on launch day. But I've run into a little trouble right now. The telecom operators in China are trying to shut me down." The other end went silent for 3 seconds. "I don't know who you are. And the G1 is highly classified. G1, slide out full keyboard, running Android 1.0, lacking a killer app ecosystem." Lin Fan fired off the words at lightning speed. "What if I told you I can make the G1 the world's very first smartphone to support free voice intercom, and that I already have 5 million active users as my bargaining chip? Do you really think China Mobile would dare block a strategic partner that's about to join forces with Google and HTC?" This was the ultimate bluff, spinning something out of absolutely nothing. Lin Fan was gambling, betting everything on HTC's desperate ambition to break into the smartphone market. Sure enough, the breathing on the other end grew noticeably heavier. 5 million users? Are you absolutely sure? You can have your people check right now. Look for a massive traffic anomaly in the China region. Project code, Soul Link, Mr. Wang, give me HTC's official developer endorsement, plus a strategic investment. And I'll hand you the entire Chinese youth market on a silver platter. 5 minutes later, Lin Fan hung up the phone. He snapped his fingers at Zhou Peng. "Close that cease and desist pop-up. Just ignore it." "Ignore it? What the hell do we do if the cops show up?" "The cops aren't coming." Lin Fan pulled the bank card that Shen Yuchu had returned out of his bag, and pressed it firmly back into her hands. China Mobile's top brass is about to get some very friendly inquiries from both HTC and Google. Right in the middle of the Olympics, absolutely no one would dare mess with an international tech partnership. This was leveraging power, using the foresight of 2024, to borrow the strength of the 2008 tech giants, and fight a totally asymmetrical war. Shen Yuchu stared at the mastermind standing before her, feeling like he was suddenly miles away. Yet, so incredibly close. The shy boy who used to just quietly follow behind her. When did he turn into a man who could so effortlessly manipulate the world like this? Lin Fan, Shen Yuchu spoke up suddenly. Yeah, I want in, whether it's as CEX, CFO, or even just pouring tea and getting water. I want to watch you win. Shen Yuchu's eyes burned with fierce determination. Lin Fan paused for a second, then broke into a smile. It was a smile filled with a long-lost, comforting warmth. Alright, welcome to the team, my future boss lady. Shen Yuchu's face instantly flushed, burning red all the way to her ears, and she shot him a fierce glare. But didn't say a single word to deny it. Right at that moment, Lin Fan's phone buzzed violently. The AI system flashed an emergency alert. Warning, massive capital fluctuation detected. Haicheng Commercial Bank is foreclosing on the collateral assets under Shen Guochang's name. The South City Building Materials Factory. Associated buyer, Zhao Chonghe. Purchase price is at a mere 30% of market value. Lin Fan's smile instantly froze over. Zhao Chonghe, the absolute bastard who, in his past life, drove Shen Yuchu's father to his death. Ruthlessly swallowed up the Shen family's factory for pennies, and eventually used that very land to build a real estate empire. Becoming the richest man in the city, the merciless wheels of history had finally rolled right to this cruel, unavoidable turning point. Lin Fan slowly turned his head to look at Shen Yuchu. The girl was still lost in her shy thoughts, completely oblivious to the impending disaster. Shen Yuchu. Lin Fan's voice dropped. Lin Fan stood up, grabbing the black canvas bag. It still held over 400,000, and his eyes were burning with murderous intent. The porridge was great, but we need to go somewhere right now. Where to? To get your family's factory back. And while we're at it, teach a rabid dog a lesson. South of the city, Red Star Building Materials Factory. This was a classic 90s reformed state-owned factory. Mottled red brick walls, rusted iron gates, and a yard piled high with unsold cement pipes and steel rebar. Right now, the factory gates were completely blocked off by a few black Audi A6s, sealing the place tight. Keeping out the furious workers. Why the hell are you shutting down the factory? We haven't been paid for 3 months. Zhao Chonghe, you heartless bastard. That's factory manager Shen's lifeline money. You can't just steal it like this. Move, let us in. The workers gripped their wrenches and iron shovels. The crowd was boiling with rage, but the men in black security uniforms were huge. Armed with riot shields, they pushed forward coldly like a solid wall. Behind the cordon, next to a flimsy folding table, sat a middle-aged man in a sharp suit, his hair slicked back and greasy. He pinched a cigar between his fingers, watching the chaos outside with utter disdain. This was Zhao Chonghe, the boss of Haicheng Chonghe Real Estate. Sitting across from him was Shen Yuchu's uncle. He was dripping with sweat, gripping a pen with hands shaking like a leaf. Mr. Zhao, this price is way too low. 2 million. Just the land alone is worth more than 2 million. Besides, Guojang is still in the hospital. Cut the crap. Zhao Gang blew out a puff of smoke, his eyes turning cold and sinister. Shen Guojang's 1.8 million loan is due today. If he doesn't sign this transfer, the court will be here tomorrow to seal it off for auction. And when it doesn't sell, you won't see a single dime, and you'll be drowning in a mountain of debt. But, sign it, and those 200,000 in cash are all yours. Don't sign, and you can go visit your brother-in-law in prison. Zhao Gang slammed a black briefcase onto the table. He cracked it open, revealing the stacks of cash inside. It was a blatant temptation, and a blatant threat. Shen Yuchu's uncle gulped hard, his mental defenses crumbling completely. Trembling, he lowered the tip of the pen onto the contract. Stop! A furious roar erupted, like a sudden clap of thunder. It pierced right through the noisy crowd. Zhao Gang frowned. He looked up, only to see a yellow taxi slam on its brakes just outside the crowd. The doors flew open. A young man, a heavier guy, and a girl stormed out of the car. Little Chu, Shen Yuchu's uncle gasped, his hand jerking in fright. The pen dropped to the ground. Shen Yuchu saw this, trembling with anger. Uncle, what are you doing? This factory is my dad's life's work. How could you sell it for just 2 million? She rushed forward, trying to snatch the contract, but was roughly stopped by 2 security guards in black. Oh, so this is the Shen family's eldest niece, huh? Zhao Gang stood up, looking Shen Yuchu up and down, his eyes filled with a sickening greed. You're quite the beauty. Well, since you're here, it saves me the trouble of finding you. A father's debt falls on his children. If your old man can't sign it, your signature works just fine. He waved his hand. The guards dragged her to the desk like a helpless little chick. "Let her go," an icy voice echoed through the room. Lin Fan stepped out from the crowd. He walked slowly, but every step carried a heavy, undeniable presence. For some reason, the workers around him subconsciously stepped back to clear a path. "And who the hell are you?" Zhao Changhe narrowed his eyes. Glaring at this kid in a cheap t-shirt, Lin Fan completely ignored him. He walked straight over to Shen Yuchu and grabbed the guard's wrist. Crack! A sickening snap echoed out. "Ah!" The guard let out a blood-curdling scream, his wrist twisted at a grotesque angle. And instantly let go. Lin Fan pulled Shen Yuchu behind him, then pulled a wet wipe from his pocket and wiped his hand in disgust. As if he had just touched something filthy. The entire room fell dead silent. Zhao Chenghei's face darkened. "Listen here, kid, do you know how to fight? Do you even know who I am? Zhao Changhe, you built your fortune on tax evasion, bribed your way into real estate, and you have the blood of 3 people on your hands." Though no charges were ever filed, Lin Fan calmly recited the data his AI had just pulled up. His voice wasn't loud, but every single word hit a nerve. Zhao Chenghei's pupils shrank in panic. "You're asking for a death wish." A dozen guards immediately swarmed them, aggressively waving their rubber batons. Fatty Joe's legs were shaking in fear, but he still grabbed a brick from the ground and stood by Lin Fan's side. Don't come any closer. I know martial arts." Lin Fan just chuckled. He pulled a stack of documents from his backpack and slammed them right into Zhao Chenghei's face. Smack! As the papers scattered in the air, Lin Fan sneered. "You thought you could buy this factory for just 2 million? Boss Zhao, you really thought you had it all figured out, didn't you? But it's a shame. Your little scheme just fell apart." Furious and humiliated, Zhao Changhe snatched a piece of paper, ready to rip it to shreds, but he froze the second he saw what was on it. It wasn't some legal document. It was a geological survey map and an equipment valuation list, the Red Star Building Materials Factory. Sure, the equipment was old, but the warehouse had 3 sealed 1990s German imported Siemens high-precision CNC machines. Since nobody knew how to use them, they've just been sitting there as scrap metal. Lin Fan pointed deep into the factory. These 3 machines, their current price on the second-hand market, is at least 1,500,000 a pop. Lin Fan pointed at the ground beneath his feet. And right under this plot of land lies an unrecorded, high-quality quartz sand vein. You're in such a rush to buy this place. Not for the building materials, but to mine that quartz, right? A cold sweat instantly broke out on Zhao Chenghei's forehead. This was his absolute biggest secret. Not even Shen Guojiang knew about it. How on earth could this high school kid know? Naturally, it was a conclusion drawn by AI, cross-referencing the Geological Bureau's database with satellite infrared scans. "You, who the hell are you?" Zhao Chenghei's voice started trembling. "I'm the guy crashing your deal." Lin Fan unzipped the black canvas bag, revealing the 500,000 inside. It wasn't actually enough, but he totally nailed the intimidating vibe. "I'm taking this factory." Lin Fan looked around and shouted at the top of his lungs to the angry workers. "Uncles, elders, Zhao Changhe is offering 2 million. And he wants to lay you all off. I, Lin Fan, might not have much money on me right now, but I promise you this. The factory is not for sale, and no one is getting fired. Every dime of back pay owed to you will be paid in full, with interest, within 3 days. I'm going to lead this place through a complete pivot. We are done making concrete pipes. We're pivoting to high-tech." The workers exchanged bewildered glances. They all thought this kid was just talking big, but seeing how fierce he'd just been, and how incredibly satisfying it was to see him smack down Zhao Changhe, everyone's opinion instantly swayed. "He's the kid manager Shen sponsored. I trust him." He actually wasn't. The situation completely flipped in an instant. Zhao Changhe looked around at the glaring eyes of hundreds of workers gripping their shovels. He knew he had completely lost the upper hand today. A mighty dragon is no match for the local snakes. If a brawl actually broke out, his dozen or so guys would be trampled into a bloody pulp. All right, you little brat." Zhao Gang gritted his teeth and viciously stomped out his cigar. "I'll take the loss today. But you'd better remember this. This factory is still buried in bank debt. 1,800,000. If you can't pay it off by 5 p.m. tomorrow, the court is shutting this place down anyway. I'd love to see how you pull that off. Let's go." Zhao Gang and his men slinked away in defeat. A massive cheer erupted at the factory gates. But Shen Yuchu's legs gave out, and she nearly collapsed onto the ground. She grabbed Lin Fan's arm, tears welling up in her eyes. Lin Fan, are you insane? 1,800,000, plus all the workers' wages. That's over 2 million. Where on earth are we going to find that kind of money? And besides, what was all that about high tech? Lin Fan turned around and looked at the dilapidated red brick factory building. The golden light of the setting sun spilled over the rusted iron gates, making them look as if they were coated in gold. To anyone else, this place was just a pile of ruins. But in Lin Fan's eyes, this was his base number 1. Those 3 German machine tools, combined with AI's CNC programming capabilities, could manufacture high-precision phone cases and components that were impossible to produce domestically at the time. This place will no longer produce cement. This is where China's very first true smartphone will be born, a prototype of the Singularity 1. As for the money, don't worry. Lin Fan gently patted Shen Yuchu's head, looking out into the distance. Tonight, a big shot will come right to our door to hand us the cash. A big shot? Yeah, the corners of Lin Fan's mouth curled into a smirk. 10 cents old rival, Mr. Ma from Alibaba, or Mr. Li from Baidu. By now, they should have already figured out that a new, unpredictable variable has appeared on this chessboard of the internet.